11-1-14. Tyrone do have their first their first win of the 2026 National Football League. A very comprehensive, very comfortable win in the end from a Tyrone perspective. A 12-point win is what it finishes up as. And you know what? A massive win for Tyrone was needed in this game because, look, the context of the Division 2 table in terms of how things have gone. You have Meath with 6 points. You've got Cork with 6 points after 3 games. Derry have started to turn the screw now, 4 points on the board. I think if Tyrone had lost this game, you know, whatever about them ended up in the Tailteann Cup and relegation, look, that was never going to happen in my opinion, but definitely promotion would have been off the table. I think to be 5 points behind teams after 3 games, I think you'd have to be very, very hard to turn that around, albeit stranger things have happened in the National Football League. But Tyrone get the victory in the end. They do get the win, and it is a massive, massive win at that. And look, considering they actually started the game quite slow, and I actually thought for the opening sort of 5 to 10 minutes, I thought Cavan were actually the better side in fairness. I mean, Cavan started with an early goal from Tyrone Madden. They were actually 1-2 to a point up after about 10 minutes. And I felt like it took a bit of time for Tyrone just to settle into the game, to get Dara Cavan involved, to kind of get their heavy hitters involved in the game. It was a big call by Malachy O'Rourke to not start Ethan Jordan, considering he has been arguably their best forward so far this season. So that was definitely a big, big gamble indeed. But with Dara Cavan back in the side, 9 points. Owen McElhone, 4 points as well, who was very, very impressive. Tyrone were brilliant in regards to that. And look, once they kind of settled into the game, they got a massive goal on the 18th minute from Brian Kennedy. There were 3 points down at that stage. That brought them back level. And it did feel like after that Tyrone kind of slowly got a grip of this game and slowly were able to turn it around. I thought Liam Brady in goal for Cavan. He had a tough afternoon, it must be said, in terms of kickouts. There was that one moment in the second half as well where he kicked it straight to a Tyrone player, and how it actually didn't end up in a goal of no idea, to be honest with you. That was a little bit bizarre, it must be said. That was a bit of a crazy moment, but overall I thought Tyrone were excellent in terms of their press around midfield. They were very, very dominant. Brian Kennedy, Kieran Daly in particular were absolutely outstanding, and Tyrone took charge. And you know, I felt like they were keeping them at arm's length. They were keeping Cavan at arm's length throughout the start of the second half. Like Paddy Lynch was kicking some fine scores for Cavan. They were kind of drawing themselves a little bit back into the game. You were thinking, right, Tyrone aren't putting Cavan to bed necessarily, so maybe if Cavan can get a goal, they might have a chance. But the longer the game went on, the more Tyrone did start to pull away, and it did feel like Cavan had maybe conceded the game at that point. Like Dara Cavan with a couple of big 2-pointers. And in particularly in the last 10 minutes, I mean, Tyrone were scoring for fun, really. I mean, Con Kilpatrick was getting on the score sheet. Joe Goose was coming off the bench and scoring. Ethan Jordan came off the bench, just going into the last kind of couple of minutes. And even he got a point, Michael McKernan as well. So very well rounded towards the end. I think Tyrone actually outscored Cavan in the final 10 minutes, 7-0 or something like that. So it was very, very dominant. Cavan obviously had Oisin Brady black-hearted in and amongst it as well. So huge win from a Tyrone perspective. They had to win this game to get their promotion chase back on track, and they absolutely did that, in fairness to them, and a massive, massive result there from a Tyrone perspective. And actually here, when we take a look at the Tyrone scores on screen, the image is taken from Score Bio. Make sure to check them out if you get a chance. Look at that, lads. They've ended up the game with 10 scorers from their starting 15, and they actually got 2 players off the bench, Joe Goose and Ethan Jordan, who scored as well. So Tyrone, very, very well rounded. I don't think anybody has been writing Tyrone off even after the opening 2 league games. Look, Kildare, as we saw with Derry, are a lot better maybe than people expect. Derry themselves going away there, match day 2, was always going to be difficult from a Tyrone perspective, but they have a huge amount of depth in their team, a lot of young players. They do have a lot of potential. They have a lot of potential, Tyrone, and it is a bit of a conundrum, I think, for Malachy O'Rourke, and maybe a bit of a headache as well to try and put the pieces of the jigsaw all together. But getting McElhone back in the side, 4 points. Frank Burns, Dara Cavan, the interchange, the link-up play from Tyrone was very, very impressive indeed. And when you think there is still a Darren McCurry, who I believe will be coming back to Tyrone at some stage, correct me if I'm wrong in regards to that, but he should still be coming back into the fold, I'd imagine. I haven't heard anything otherwise anyway in terms of any retirements or anything, so he should be back from a Tyrone perspective, so that'll be absolutely crucial as well. And yeah, in terms of Cavan then, look, they just faded in the game. As you'll see there, Darren McVitie with a point, Tiernan Madden with the goal, Grove McKernan with 3, Oisin Brady with 3, Jared Smith with a point as well. Paddy Lynch also got 5 points as well. I don't think he's displayed on there for some reason, but fairly certain he did score 5 points, unless I'm going absolutely crazy. But yeah, he did score 5 points there from looking at it. So yeah, he had a big impact from a Cavan perspective, but they just faded. Tyrone were far more measured, far more controlled. They had the options off the bench as well, and you could see the huge gap in the quality between Tyrone and Cavan. And it's a difficult one for Cavan. They've no points after 3 games. A lot of people, including me, predicted them to get relegated at the start of the season. They've probably played better than what I would have actually expected. Today was maybe more so how I expected a lot of Cavan's games to go. They played well, I thought, against Meath. They showed some good positivity against Cork as well. But it's going to be tough for them because you are kind of looking at Division 2 and thinking, well, Offaly look like they're going to go down. But if Cavan don't go down, who's the team who does go down? Because Kildare are a lot better than people expected. Louth have 2 points on the board, but I think Louth showed a lot more against Meath in the second half, and I think they will be fine, in my opinion. So, Cork have 6 points on the board. It's just the nature of the division, and Down had this problem last season where I thought in Division 2 Down played a lot of great football at different stages, but someone has to get relegated, and it was Down, unfortunately, who lived up to their namesake. So that's just how it was. Going through some comments here. Mikey says Cavan as good as relegated now. Can't see them picking up wins versus Meath or Kildare. Yeah, it's going to be very, very tough, isn't it? The big thing I think today as well was the score difference. Like to lose by 14 points in the end. I think I said 12 at the start. It was actually worse than that. Or it was 12. My maths isn't so good. Yeah, it was 12. I was right the first time. Mikey says Derry or Kildare. Forgot they've already played Meath. Yeah, absolutely. Mikey says Cavan should target the Tailteann Cup and regroup next year. This is the most exciting promotion race in years. Tyrone, Derry, Cork, and Meath all in the mix. Yeah, Division 2 is always hugely exciting. It's always hugely exciting. Like it always is, going down to the wire, and you can't really call it and predict it. And it feels that way this time. Like Cork have 6 points on the board. Cork haven't played the same level of opposition as maybe Derry, Meath, or Tyrone, but they have 3 wins on the board. They have a healthy enough score difference as well. And the pressure is nearly going off them. And I would be curious, actually. I'm going to very quickly check the fixtures for next weekend, because that could, it's very likely, I think, that some of these teams could potentially be playing each other next weekend. And next weekend, you have Derry versus Offaly, you have Cork versus Meath. So that's going to be a hugely interesting one. Louth, Tyrone, Cavan, Kildare. So a lot of them actually separated there. But Cork playing Meath next weekend. Hopefully that's on TV. Hopefully they get that on somewhere there. But you'll be looking at it and thinking Derry and Tyrone should absolutely win their games. If Cavan have any chance, I mean, look, Kildare have been very good so far. There's no doubt on that. But Kildare are one of them teams that can, do very well against the Tyrone and then maybe go out and lose to Cavan or something like that. Cavan be at home as well. So Cavan have to bring their A game in regards to that. As a matter of fact, the next 2 fixtures for Cavan there, if they have any chance, they need to win the next 2. They've Kildare at home, and then they've actually got Louth at home as well before they then play Offaly and then Derry. Like, the next 3 games are winnable for Cavan, to be fair, to a certain degree. But I think the next one in particular, to give themselves a fighting chance, is absolutely huge. But look, Tyrone are absolutely back in it as well, you must say. And their next 2 games, Offaly, they're playing Louth and Offaly, so you'd expect 4 points on the board there, and for them to be in a very healthy position before they travel to Croke Park, as it will be on the 14th of March. So we'll keep an eye in regards to that one. Man of the match was a difficult one because there were so many great players, but I think I would have to go with Dara Canavan. Yeah, overall scoring, as we were saying there, scoring 9 points. So very, very impressive. Matty Donnelly with 1-1 as well, as we said. And yeah, they were getting scores from all angles and playing a lot more like we know how Tyrone can play. In fairness, Gaelic Guy says Cavan tore it out after 50 minutes. Yeah, they did. They just faded hugely. And that's where maybe the depth and the conditioning and the gap in quality probably comes into effect. To be fair, like what was interesting about Tyrone though is like they scored 223, but there wasn't a huge amount of 2-pointers. Like maybe you'd look at that and think, there was a huge amount of 2-pointers. But even looking at it here, like Dara Canavan, just from having a quick scan through Score Bio there, I think they only scored 1 2-pointer in the entire game there. And that was Dara Canavan. So, they've got a huge tally, but only 1 2-pointer. So that is a little bit interesting in fairness. Tyrone quality shown in the end, probably Cavan down now. The next couple of games are huge. Look, I don't think they were expected to get anything from this game necessarily. The score difference will be something that they will look at with disappointment, because that does have an effect, as we've seen in previous seasons. But the next 2 games are huge. Kildare home, Louth at home, then Offaly away. If you can get 4 points from them 3 games, you give yourself a chance. But then at the same time, I mean, their final game will be away to Derry, who mightn't have promotion sewn up by that stage. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, do let me know your thoughts, your opinions on this game in the comments down below. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could as well. We'll be back a little bit later on to discuss the Roscommon Armagh game, because what an absolute finish that one was. And we will be live at 8 p.m. as well with match with the lads as well to review all the weekend's action. So until the next one, we'll speak to you all later.